we are all united, saying good afternoon. As you know, we are definitely prepared for hurricane season. I've just finished my complete mayoral briefing with all of our partners assembled here, as well as those that just remain in unified command in terms of collaborating partners with the city of New Orleans. You know, as a low-lying city and on the front lines of climate change, no city knows the importance of hurricane preparedness more than the city of New Orleans. We are prepared, no doubt about that, but I will say that although experts anticipate a normal hurricane season, it only takes one storm to make it an active season. And a key lesson learned, again, from Hurricane Katrina is that risk is inherent and cannot be eliminated. But what we've also learned, even from Hurricane Ida, just in terms of ways that we can improve, and we have embedded those improvements into our emergency plans for hurricane season 2023. Just lessons learned, whether it's implementing NOHSEP, officially a part of our hurricane preparedness or emergency preparedness actions after and post-storm, as well as pre. In addition to that, I'm going to ask Director Colin Arnold to just walk us through ways that we are prepared. You're going to hear from other directors as well as partners. We will come back, go to Q&A, but I tell you, I've listened to over 55 departments as well as partners, and we are prepared. So with that, Colin, please come forward.
Thank you. All right. Afternoon, everybody. I'd like to start by thanking all the partners, both that are standing here, and as the mayor mentioned, we took a briefing this morning of over 55 local, state, and federal agencies, all involved and all stakeholders in responding to, preparing for, responding to, and recovering from a potential tropical event or a hurricane. I think the relationships we have with our local, state, regional, and federal partners are the most important way that we can ensure that we are prepared. We have to plan, as we do every year, for rapidly intensifying storms, which I think Lauren will talk about a little after me, but without belaboring the point. Although we have El Nino, which can cause an effect that prevents maybe some of the Atlantic activity that we see. The seawater temperatures in the Gulf are very high, and that doesn't really have anything to do with what can form in the Gulf of Mexico off the Yucatan Peninsula and the Caribbean and affect us as a city, so we need to be prepared. And I think that the briefing this morning accentuates that we are synchronizing and we're coordinating with our partners more than we have ever before. The Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness remains committed to coordinating the city's response should a storm come our way. Some of the things we've done in an after action, both from Ida, we had a relatively quiet season last year, fortunately. We have, at the end of last year, hired a disaster accessibility coordinator in my office, which is a full-time position, to expand language access and functional needs access in our messaging and our emergency plans and operations. We've continued to build on our emergency resource center concept and plans that were utilized to great effect during Hurricane Ida. Well suited for both tornadoes and freeze incidents that we saw last year as well. Participation and support from our partners at NOHSEP and RTA, SPCA in particular, those three are just terrific. I mean, I really just cannot say enough about these organizations. We finalized the city's comprehensive recovery framework in December of 2022. Recently, which actually has been asked by FEMA to be presented as a model of practice for how large-scale recovery planning and framework should occur. Had a lot of community engagement in that process, which we're very proud of. We hosted a regional roundtable for the media and all of our Region 1 partners, Jefferson, Orleans, St. Bernard, and Plaquemines Parish, and WYES in the first quarter of this year. It was tremendously successful. Our idea was to get the media together, really just to talk about mass notification and how we alert the public and message the public. And I think that's something we want to build into doing a quarterly meeting with our media partners in that regard, which we're happy about. We, through NOAA Ready, we've began developing a standard operating procedure post-event called a post-emergency canvas operation, which was activated for the Algiers tornado for the first time. Now it's a smaller scale event with less effect than what we'd expect from a major hurricane, but it does kind of show the need for disaster case management when we're working with many of the communities in our city. We've launched a Spanish emergency alert list. I'm encouraging anyone who knows of a Spanish speaker, native Spanish speaker, or someone who prefers to converse in Spanish, please text ESP to 77295. We'll send you alerts in Spanish. Hurricane preparedness presentations are underway. NOHSEP has been focused on independent living facilities with the health department and RTA, and you're going to hear more about that from those speakers. If you have anyone in the community, and we want to talk to anybody face-to-face, especially post-COVID, that would like any type of hurricane preparedness presentation or active shooter preparedness, we have a whole list of kind of classes and presentations that we can do. Please go to ready.noaa.gov/training. We're encouraging all residents to get there and review their hurricane plans now. This is the time to do it. Stay connected by signing up for NOLA Ready emergency alerts by texting NOLA Ready, one word, that's NOLA Ready to 77295. Make an evacuation plan for your family that includes any special needs, any functional or access needs, any care for elderly members of the family, and your pets. Gather your supplies for an emergency home kit for a lower level storm where we're going to shelter in place, and always have a go bag ready in case we do need to evacuate. Review your flood insurance policy and make sure you're covered this season. We all know that that's a hot button issue right now. For more information about all of these things I'm talking about, go to ready.noaa.gov. You can also follow us on social media at NOLA Ready. While New Orleans is better prepared for a hurricane than it has ever been, we cannot be complacent. New Orleanians must continue to come together. In this profession, in emergency management, we're always concerned about the potential for complacency among our residents, especially with, what we're hearing about this year's forecast being either normal or slightly below average. This hurricane season will be no different than any other hurricane season, and we are in a unique position and in a unique geography for a unique threat from a hurricane. And that continues to be the same regardless of the forecast. Please get to know your neighbors. We're learning a lot about independent living facilities, the elderly, and those that will be most affected particularly by heat and power outages after storms. We've learned it during Ida, and we're doing what we can, and it's a challenge to bring these people that need our assistance and prioritize them, and that's what we're trying to do. Please get to know your neighbors, talk to them about their plans. Join the NOLA Ready Volunteer Corps if you have some time and are interested in assisting your fellow residents and visitors with hurricane preparedness. We're always looking for volunteers. Please take care of each other and this great city. Thanks. And so Lauren Nash is going to come up. She's the warning coordination meteorologist for the New Orleans Office of the National Weather Service, and a terrific partner.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, has released their 2023 hurricane season outlook, which does call for a near normal hurricane season. This forecast is based on a high chance of El Nino, as some of you may have heard that term recently, which does suppress hurricane activity in the Atlantic. However, sea surface temperatures are also at record highs, which can increase hurricane season activity. This has led to the near normal forecast. Now, as Colin was saying, a lot of times El Nino has very little sway in the Gulf of Mexico, or these storms that form in the Caribbean or near the Yucatan. Those may not be impacted by El Nino. And also remember, this forecast is a huge basin. So Canada to the UK, down to Africa, down to South America, for the entire season. This is not a New Orleans specific forecast, and we cannot tell you how many storms will impact the region. That means it's important to be ready for hurricane season now. It's important to be ready for a tropical system before it happens, because you don't know how much time you're gonna have. We saw with Ida, we've seen with other storms and rapid intensification, people aren't gonna get the 5 to 7 days that they're thinking they're going to have. So be ready now. Lastly, remember to follow trusted weather sources. This means the National Weather Service, your local news outlets, and of course the City of New Orleans. And like every year, we at the National Weather Service stand ready to work closely with the City of New Orleans and provide them all the information that they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie. You do a great job, and thank you for that. Dr. Jennifer Begno, New Orleans Health Department.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hi, everybody. I'm here to talk specifically about the independent living facilities because this is something new and it's directly based on the lessons learned from Ida, and those were very hard lessons. What we learned is that these independent living facilities are especially vulnerable to the impacts of hurricanes, whether it's power outages, flooding, or isolation. And so that's why we have some sort of new guidelines to assist these facilities with their emergency preparedness. The health department during emergencies generally has a few main roles and then has some supporting roles, but our main roles are to coordinate with independent living facilities and then to work with NOHSEP and the state to help coordinate nursing homes. And I want to make it clear these are two different categories. We also assist with the new Smart 911 registry, and then we coordinate across healthcare facilities, hospitals, home health, dialysis, etc. So just to be clear, when we say independent living facilities, what we're talking about are privately owned buildings where many seniors and individuals with disabilities may live. They do not provide advanced levels of care like a nursing home or an assisted living facilities, but I don't need to tell anybody who was here during Ida, there are many independent but yet still vulnerable residents who live in these types of buildings. So what the ordinance that was passed shortly thereafter does is improves our ability to communicate with and understand the immediate challenges for people with special needs or functional needs who live in these large facilities and allow us to triage any emergent aid much more efficiently than we saw a few years ago. What the ordinance asks buildings to do is a few things. Number one, to provide an updated roster of residents to the health department so we know how many people are there and who they are. Residents are also encouraged, but not mandated, to provide details about any special needs they might have. So when we get that roster, we've asked residents, if you have oxygen, if you have a wheelchair, if you're electricity dependent, please let us know so that we can account for that. Facilities also have to provide the name and multiple points of contact for the responsible individual for that building who would remain on site during most disasters, and they must check in with NOHD every 24 hours during a disaster. This is similar to what we do with nursing homes, and it works really, really well, because then we know within a 24-hour period, if not more frequently, exactly if there's something going on. Each facility must submit their emergency plan, but I want to make it clear that unlike nursing homes, there is no set standard of a building plan. Think about, you might have a different plan for your house than your neighbor has for their house, and that's very similar, recognizing these are privately owned buildings. There is no approval process of the plan. We just want to know exactly what it is so that we can reference it should we need to. So we've been coordinating since the ordinance passed with facility management and staff to make sure they have adequate supplies and bad weather plans. We are conducting inspections, assessments. We will work with anybody on their plan or to help it be as robust as it can. Where we are now is that, according to the conditions set forth in the ordinance, there are 67 facilities that meet this criteria, right? It's not going to be every apartment building in New Orleans. It's a very specific set of criteria. Of those, 55 have submitted their application. 44 are in full compliance, which is pretty good. The ones who aren't quite yet in compliance, we are working with to make sure that they are. That leaves 12 who have not submitted applications, but we are in contact with and working with everyone so that we can get them up to speed. This application is due on June 1st, and there is an adjudication process if you don't submit. But we really want to thank our partners who manage these buildings, because by and large, they've been very, very responsive, wanting to work on it. We've done a ton of outreach at the buildings, with the residents, with the management, so, you know, we're going to continue to work with them. But I do want to say, if you're a resident at an independent living facility, or if you have a family member or a loved one who is in one of these facilities, please make sure you have your own plan set. This is not a substitution for your own personal plan or that of your vulnerable family members. I can't stress this enough. You should understand what your building is presenting to us. You should have that conversation with them, but it's really important to make your own plans. Being prepared individually to decide whether you're going to stay or evacuate is always the best and safest course. So again, we encourage all of these residents and everybody to review your emergency plan, to sign up for NOAA Ready Alerts at ready.noaa.gov, and the Health Department is also here to reach out. Any questions, we're here to help. We want to make sure that everyone's ready for hurricane season. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bagnell. We're going to keep it going, and Director Chief John Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for putting this together so we can speak directly to the community on how important this is. We want to get the message out before the crisis occurs, so thank you for putting this together. And thank you to the media for covering this so we can talk to the community and settle their anxiety before the incident occurred. Thank you to the men and women standing behind us, all our partners, the federal, state, and local partners. They're battle tested. We've been through this. Living in New Orleans is just a way of living here in the lower line areas, dealing with storms. These are some of the most experienced, trustworthy, and educated practice organizations in the United States dealing with disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, etc. in the last several years. It's not by accident that we have performed more emergency action than any other city in America over the past several years. The performance of these agencies, the men and women, the education, the leadership that we get in the hearts and souls of a great nation. We can depend on them. The message you have heard and will continue to hear from our leaders is that we have to depend on them to follow the orders and instructions. Be prepared to work as a team, collectively, city, state, local, federal, as well as the community. Be prepared to work as a team, and we will be successful. We've been successful in the past, and we will continue to be successful as long as everybody come together and work as a team. We understand our mission, and it's very simple. It's to save lives, protect property, and to provide security for all involved. That's what we do, and that's what we need to do. Working with you and ensuring that we can accomplish it through the long upcoming hurricane season. We have a great team of local, state, and federal, and nonprofit agencies that make this up. They can only perform when citizens step forward and help us perform our functions. Colin talked about volunteers. We all need to come together and work together as a team and help our neighbors out. We have a large challenge facing us. We have done it before, and we will continue to be successful. We just ask as we come into this hurricane season, and we talked about it only takes one to hit the city. And we saw that with Katrina, we saw that through Ida, we continue to see it through tornadoes, that we have to combine, and communication is key. And that's why we're up here, and we appreciate the media coming out here and allowing us to speak to the community and communicate. And we will continue to communicate throughout the disaster. We continue to communicate with our public, as Dr. Bagnell say, with our independent living as well as our nursing homes, to make sure that everybody knows what the resources are that the city provides, so that we can make sure that everybody gets through the season safe and sound. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Chief. And I'm going to ask Deputy CAO of Infrastructure, Joe Brett. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thanks to the media for covering all our efforts in the city. Today I'll brief most of the infrastructure groups under my purview. Firstly, I'd like to say that as the city of New Orleans, we're really lucky to have a local FEMA office here. The Louisiana Integrated Recovery Office is here. We have local FEMA reps that we work with daily from the local storms we've been through. They stand with us in the EOC with Colin Arnold and his group, and they're there to give us what we need. So all the partners you see around us will be in the EOC functioning. We had a tough time doing Iowa when we lost power, but we made it through it. So, it just goes to tell you what type of folks we've got working with us. For parks and parkways, the Forestry Division is sufficiently stocked with necessary equipment ahead of hurricane season. Parkway tree contractors are in place to assist Forestry Division and the department with right-of-way clearing and down trees post-storm. Department-wide pre-hurricane meetings are set to review staff expectations, roles, and responsibilities. The Department of Sanitation, pre-position emergency debris removal, monitoring contracts ahead of the 2023 hurricane season. And all those contracts are in place. As you remember, during Hurricane Ida, we had a problem with municipal solid waste. And with the help with our FEMA partners and the support of our sanitation department, we were able to overcome, the massive amount of trash and debris that was on the streets. Also, we have Department of Sanitation has made significant progress clearing illegal dumping backlogs in 2023, reducing flooding and projectile risks. Residents should register with NOAA ready to receive alerts and direction regarding debris removal following the event. Safety is paramount. We sent a letter out to all our contractors for good housekeeping. At this time, the city, we're probably 1,000 blocks or more, 10% of the city is under construction. We've got 2,800 blocks under construction right now from either federal, state, or city grants. So we've got a lot of construction debris. We've got a lot of barriers and cones. We sent a letter out yesterday to all our contractors and construction companies to secure the debris, and we'll continue to do that up until the event. Department of Public Works, we're manned with equipment. We're manned with pothole cleaners, manhole cleaners. Our crews are out there now. You probably noticed all the potholes. The vac trucks are out there working every day. I would encourage the residents to go to roadworknoaa.gov/alerts to get information. That number is 504-658-7623, and we hope for a safe, hurricane season this year. Thank you.
So thank you, Joe. And I'm going to ask Director Corbett, Sewage and Water Board, to come forward, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here, allowing us to share and again communicate the state of our preparedness of the Sewage and Water Board. I think it's very important to share and remind everyone that our utility provides 3 essential services. I know we tend to focus on flood protection and mitigation, but we also provide drinking water. We do wastewater collection and treatment, and obviously drainage. So we take all those 3 seriously. And our major goal during a dry weather day or a bad weather day is to have uninterrupted service to our community. So that's what drives our decision as we make decisions and prepare for the season. So we're constantly maintaining, repairing, and improving all 3 systems. A couple things that we've been doing and we continue to do is we have been focusing on our canals. We have about 35 open canals that we've been doing a lot of cleaning, removing any blockage or impediment as to maximize the capacity of those canals. We've been working very closely with key partners like the Flood Authority East, because we have to synchronize our operation during any surge events. That's very, very crucial operation, and communication and sharing information, current information with them is very key, and they've been great partners with us, as well as the Corps of Engineers being involved with the Outfall Canal pumping stations. Working with Entergy, our partner, is more key than ever. Obviously, everything we do is very active and relies on power, whether it's our own or Entergy, so it's very key to have advanced communication and be prepared to any event that we may face. Specific to wastewater treatment, we've fully recovered from any of the Ida damages that we sustained at the East Bank wastewater treatment plant. We've fortified our backup generator because it sustained damage and rendered the entire plant inoperational during Ida. So that generator has been fortified, and hopefully would reduce, if not eliminate, the chances of damage to that generator. We also added additional generators to allow us to pump any stormwater to avoid any flooding of that facility. Specific to our power, we have ample power capacity that would meet any of our peak demands. We have one generator that's currently out. We refer to it as turbine 4, and if you are familiar with that, and that is slated to be back sometime in end of June, early July, and then with that we will regain about 18 megawatts of power, and putting us in a very, very good place relative to powering all our drainage pumps as well as our drinking water pumps. So we're in very, very good standing relative to that. When it comes to pumps, we have 7 pumps that are out of the total of 99 pumps. 2 of them are in the largest pumping station, DPS 6, and those are slated to coming back. Either one is due back this week, and the other one is within a month. The other ones do not cause us any concern because we do have redundancy in the system, but we are obviously working very hard on bringing all of them back as soon as possible. Relative to drinking water, we have, as many of you know, had refurbished 4 of the 8 potable water pumps, and those obviously are now more reliable. They have a variable speed, allowing us to adjust to any loss of pressure in the system, so that puts us in a very, very good place. 2 are under construction, and we have 2 backups. We have 6 out of 8 that are available to us. And with all the alternative source of power and the redundancy, we are very confident that we will be able to pump water, drinking water, into the system. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gassan. And I'm going to ask Ms. Sandra Diggs to come forward.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor. Thank you for having us here today. And others have said, thank you all for being here as well to allow us to get the opportunity to speak directly with our customers regarding our preparedness and energy. As you know, Energy New Orleans, we prepare year-round, and we learn and we improve from our previous storm responses. That includes working with our partners, such as Sewage and Water Board, as Director Gassan indicated, and our city partners that we have with us here today, our local community partners, and to make sure that we're working together through new ideas and rethinking and retooling from previous storm responses. So as we're headed into the 2023 hurricane season, we've taken steps to ensure that employees are ready to respond to another storm if it hits this area. Preparations have included tabletop storm drills involving cross-functional teams across our entire enterprise and our service territory, as well as a 2-day drill held in the field where we simulated a Category 5 hurricane scenarios for our field crews and leaders. We're also implementing new software to assess damage more rapidly and practicing communication techniques to ensure everyone has multiple methods to stay in touch. We'll always be chasing perfection when it comes to storm recovery, but we do know that no system is fail-proof. So resiliency investments are needed to ensure our grid can withstand more frequent and stronger storms. And if the lights go out, we can safely and quickly restore power to the services, to our constituents. We want our customers to know that we understand the importance we play in bringing back normalcy